It's Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm going to be making a shaker card with this die from the Stamps of Life. It says Kudos, so it's a word die, but it's large and it actually makes a shaped card. So this large die, the largest die in the set, is actually your card base, and it will make an A2 size card. So it's a card base shaped in the word Kudos, and then you also have another layering die that comes with that set, and then you have the words, and each one of these letters cuts out individually. So if you wanted to, you can actually use these letters just on a card front or on a scrapbook page. You don't have to make this into an A2 size card, but if you wanted to, you definitely can. So what you're going to need for this card is you're going to need some pattern paper. I'm using the Laugh collection. This is a very old collection from the Stamps of Life. In fact, I don't even think they have it on their website anymore. But I chose to go with more of a masculine theme just because most of my cards, they always use more feminine colors, the pinks and the purples, all the pastels. But I decided to go with a more masculine theme today. So I decided to use this for my pattern paper, and then I'm going to look and see what colors are in here, and I'm going to pick out colors based on what's in here. So there's a couple different blues, so I am going to use the blueberry cardstock from the Stamps of Life, so that will coordinate perfectly. And then I also have some shaker bits. These are more along the red family, so those are going to go inside. You'll also need some acetate for this shaker card, and then some white cardstock. And if you don't want to use white cardstock, maybe you have chipboard for your layering pieces, you can always use chipboard. That's simply up to you. So we're going to start out first by die cutting the pattern paper. So you're going to take the largest die in the set, and you're going to die cut your pattern paper, and that's going to be the background for the word Kudos. So here is what that die cut out. You have this fun background. Next, you're going to take your Kudos word die and die cut your blueberry cardstock. And here are the letters. You can see how big these letters are. So you're going to set these aside. So we'll just collect those, set those with the shadow layer, set the die aside. Next, you're going to take these two dies and we're going to layer them. So the smaller one will go inside the larger one, and you're going to take your white cardstock. Now I'm using the Michaels Recollections 110-pound cardstock because it's much thicker. And when I'm doing shaker cards, I like to be able to use either a thicker cardstock or even a chipboard so that I don't have to use as many pieces for my layers to build up that wall to hold the shaker bits in. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and layer these inside, layer the smaller one inside the larger one, and then I'm going to use some tape to just hold this down, hold these dies together. So make sure that you are putting your tape on the actual dies because you want to make sure you keep them together, because you're going to actually be using these dies just like this to cut several pieces of cardstock. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll run this through the die cutting machine. So when that comes out of your die cut machine, you're just going to remove the die. Make sure you keep the tape intact. So keep those dies together, but remove the cardstock. So you're going to actually have an outline just like this, and then you'll have a layer. This layer we're not using, so we're going to just set that aside. You can save that for another project. This is what we're going to use to build up the walls for our shaker. So with this die intact, I'm going to die cut this white cardstock again. And you'll need to die cut the white cardstock as many times as you need to, depending on how thick your shaker bits are and how tall you need your wall. And I'll show you more about that in just a minute after I get these other pieces die cut. So in total, I have die cut 6 pieces of the white cardstock to get 6 of these white outlines. So I have 6 here, and 5 of them are going to be for the wall, to build up my wall, to hold my shaker bits, and then 1 of them we will hold on to for the top layering piece that goes over top of the acetate. So before we proceed with turning this into a shaker card, I just want to show you that when we add these to our pattern paper, these are going to be added just like this. So they will be layered on top of each other to build up that wall to hold those shaker bits in. So you need to have enough cardstock layers in order to have those shaker bits move around inside of this piece. So how do you test that? Well, you're going to put some of your shaker bits in here. Just put a few in there. And then if you hold on to this, kind of just like hold this up and look up to it real close, move your shaker pieces right against the wall of that cardstock, and just make sure that those shaker pieces are shorter than the actual cardstock, or they rest right underneath that top cardstock layer. If your shaker pieces are taller and you find that they are going above that top cardstock layer, then you're going to need to cut more cardstock. So if you have real thick shaker bits, you're going to need more cardstock to build up that wall. If you have thinner shaker bits, you'll need less. So the number of cardstock layers that you have here will depend on your shaker bit size, okay, so your shaker size. So again, I have 5 layers here, and then this one we would set aside for our top layering piece after we add our cardstock. So right now I'm going to set those aside, and I want to go ahead and put these shaker pieces back inside here so that we don't lose them, and we'll save them for when we're ready for them. So I'm going to go ahead and add my outlines to my pattern paper. So I'm going to turn one over, apply glue. So I'm just using some glue here, and in my opinion, the glue works better than adhesive, the adhesive tape, just because it's stronger and it's going to hold much better when you are using a shaker card. So definitely suggest using glue. I'm using the Art Glitter glue. And then after you have the glue on the one piece, you're just going to turn it over, and then it's going to line up exactly with that pattern paper. Now, try not to use so much glue, because keep in mind, and I think I use a little bit too much here, but if you use too much glue and it seeps out, then you're going to have glue inside, and your shaker bits will get caught up on that glue. And then if they dry like that, then your shaker bits are not going to move around. So just try to use your glue sparingly, but you definitely want to have good coverage. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, set this to music, and we'll be right back and we'll finish up this card. Okay, so there is the bottom part of the shaker piece. So you can see how thick that wall is. And next I'm going to die cut a piece of acetate so that I can hold the shaker bits in. So for the acetate, you're going to want to take this die and go ahead and take all of that washi off of there. And the piece that you're going to use, let's see, is going to be the largest die in the set. So you're going to die cut that with your acetate. So here's my acetate. So I'm just going to run that through my die cut machine. And here is my acetate. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my shaker pieces inside of here. Okay, so just gonna kind of smooth them out. Now, I always like to suggest that when you're putting shaker bits in, try and make sure they're on one level. They're not piling up because you do have to put the acetate on there. So just kind of spread them out, make sure they're not on top of each other. And then once you have those in place, you're going to take your acetate and you're just going to glue it right there to the top. Now, I do want to mention before I do this, if you're using sequins, sometimes sequins might stick to your acetate. So what I suggest, if you have powder, just some baby powder, just wipe off the acetate really well with some baby powder, and that usually does the trick. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to take my glue, and I am with a light hand going to apply glue to the top of this, all the white area. See how I got that on there? Definitely don't want to have glue on those shaker bits, otherwise they will get stuck. So if that happens, I'm just going to grab them, take them out, and just save them for another card because I don't want to have wet glue inside. So once you have your glue, go ahead and get your acetate and pop it right down. It's going to fit perfectly because it was cut with the same die. And I usually like to have an acrylic block and just rest it on here just to keep this in place. And while that glue dries, it's always a good idea just to keep that on there and let that dry. So once that is dry, just remove those blocks, and there is your shaker piece. And we're now going to add these letters directly to the top. So those will just be glued down. So I'm going to apply glue to each one of these letters and add this to my shaker. Next, you'll need to take your last white layer and you need to add that to the top, because right now the acetate is showing with the glue underneath. So you just want to put a layer over top of that to make it look finished. And if you wanted to have another color on top instead of white, now's the time to do that. So if you wanted to die cut another piece and maybe another color, you can do that, but I wanted to keep it with white. And that shaker is then complete, and I'll just need to add that to a card base. So there's my shaker. So for the card base, you're going to take the largest die in the set and a piece of white cardstock. I'm just going to fold my cardstock in half, use my bone folder to score that down. And then I'm going to take my die, and if I wanted to open from the top, so I want to have a top folding card, I'm just going to place the die slightly above the fold in the cardstock. But if I wanted it to have a side fold, just place the die so that it's immediately to the left of that fold in the cardstock. So I'm actually going to go top fold, so I'm going to place my die right there and run that through my die cutting machine. So when that comes out of the die cutting machine, just remove that cardstock, washi tape, and the die. And then just these extra pieces, we'll remove those, and then that Kudos shaker piece will go right on top. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna put glue on the top of here because the top part is actually cut off. So if I put glue on the back of the shaker, and if I put it too high, I'd have to wipe off the glue from where the cardstock is not. So now I'm gonna add this, line it up with the bottom. Okay, and that's it, and just press that down, and that's the shaker. So I thought this card needed something a little bit more, so I went ahead and die cut some stars. These are the dotted star dies from the Stamps of Life, and I die cut 2 of them out of this red with the star pattern paper. It's from the same paper pad as the pattern paper that's underneath here. And then I also have one small one cut out of the sea glass cardstock, which is the same light blue color that's in that paper pad. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add these. I think that will add just a little bit something extra to this card. Since it was a masculine card, I did not want to add a bow or a ribbon, but if you can definitely do that if you wanted to, because that would look cute across the top as well. Okay, so here is my shaker card. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more card making tutorials. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.